TikTok. Let's fucking go, everybody. Let's get everybody tuned in. Okay. We also hit up Snapchat so Snapchat knows we are live as well. Hey, what up, Snapchat? I am the theroo802, and guess what? We are live. We're talking AFC North. That means Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. I gotta be the smartass to say I don't usually call them the Browns. I call them the shit stains. So definitely tune in. Let's preview this interesting division with Rodgers, Jackson, and Burrow. Plus, you got possibly Watson in Cleveland, but we'll see with him. I feel like he's kind of the wild card in this case. But anyways, tune in, come say hello, drop your predictions, and most of all, let's enjoy ourselves. It's a party every time we get on the stream. See you soon. Love you all. God bless. That's for Instagram as well. Hey, what up, Insta? I'm the theroo802 and we're live. AFC North Edition, Sports Talk. Definitely tune in, drop your predictions. Most of all, let's have fun. Let's enjoy ourselves. Most of all, let's drop that sports knowledge, guys. What do you think's going to happen with AFC North, a division of Rodgers, Jackson, Burrow, and the possible wild card of Deshaun Watson coming back after all the crazy injuries and controversy? But can't wait to see you all in here. God bless. I love you all. See you soon. All right. Let's see. Oh, we got. Bro, Watson shouldn't be in the NFL. You're probably not wrong on that one there, Mister. He is the guy that likes too much of the rub and tug, to say the least. I'm sorry, I have to crack jokes with that guy. He has pr- produced some memorable memes over the last few seasons, to say the least. He is interesting one to say the least. But yeah, he we'll say it's definitely going to be interesting whether him or Sanders gets the job. I do root for Sanders to get the job there in Cleveland, even though they are the Cleveland shit stains. They're probably not much better than the Jets, but and if not, the Jets not might not be much better than them. But let me pull up my internet browser. Uh, and we'll preview each team. We'll go through each schedule. We'll see. We'll grade out what do we feel like they've done right this off season. All the teams in the North. We'll say, who should we start off with? I think it's gonna be Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. I'd like to think that the Steelers are going to overtake the Bengals just because I don't think the Bengals I think the Bengals are going to be in worse shape than they were last year defensively. Like, the problem with the Bengals is they are going to have put a law on Joe Burrow, which is the sad part. Like, he's a dude that deserves a lot better, but unfortunately, he plays for an owner that is probably the cheapest motherfucker in the league. Let's see. So we pull up the Ravens. We're going to start off with the Ravens there, Jackson. So we got, of course, you got Mr. Lamar Jackson at quarterback. Just a review from last season, he threw for 2,549 yards, 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He had the ninth best QBR in football. But the other numbers were outside of the top 10 every statistical category outside of that. He was 12th in interceptions. So realistically, Jackson, his completion percentage was around his same, but you also got to remember he didn't throw the ball nearly as much last season because he wasn't able to play like consistently. Like, if you're looking at his numbers just for the last 3 games of the season, he didn't even throw the ball 20 times. So in the last 2 games of the season were kind of ugly. He threw for 3 touchdown passes. Yeah, he missed 4 games. So he realistically, and you know what you're gonna get with Lamar. He's going into his age 29 season. He'll be 30 by playoffs. Damn, that's a mind fuck right there, guys. That's an absolute mind fuck. He's gonna be 30 years old this year, or next year technically. He turns 30 on January 7th. So basically, very end of regular season. And we know what to expect from Lamar. The last couple seasons, he has improved mightily as a passer. For the people that don't like Lamar as a passing quarterback, or just a QB in general, he in the last 2 seasons where he was absolutely money, he completed about 67% of his passes roughly for between those last two seasons combined. He had 65 touchdown passes with it between 23 and 24, and he only threw 11 interceptions out of those. Yeah, his average pass is about 8 yards, so he's throwing the ball relatively short. But at the same time, you think about that, and he's nearly had over 4,000 yards those last 2 seasons. And to just combine that with his running ability, where he was great, nearly having 1,000 yards both those seasons. So just what he was able to do as a runner, combined with the passing that he was able to do. But last year was a very, very down year. He only had 67 carries for 349 yards, which is a low for Lamar. Lamar is usually in the over 100 carries, guys. So that's, in order for the Ravens to be successful, he's gotta be the dual threat guy that they ask from him. They've designed that offense around him, so one, he won't be running as much anymore. He's getting old. But that's his identity. That's what opens his ability to pass pass the ball is that he is a running threat. So this is going to be the year where what type of quarterback does he really evolve into? Because you're right, he is getting old. He can't continue doing what he's doing because he's gonna do what Michael Vick did, what Lamar did. I mean, or what Cam did towards the end of their careers, where they couldn't be those same dynamic runners. So is Lamar going to have one more year where he's able to be the dual threat guy and slowly transition to more of a passing quarterback? Or are we going to see another Lamar Jackson season where he's playing 13 games? That's realistically, that's what's gonna decide how they are this season. And to me, they have Rashad Bateman, they have Zay Flowers. They've just, to me, they've always struggled to really put good, like really, really good receivers around the guy. And that's part of the reason why they haven't been able to do anything. They still have Mark Andrews. They let Isaiah Likely walk, it looks like, because I'm looking at their depth chart. I thought that was interesting since considering Andrews had probably one of his more weaker seasons last year. Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry. We can bet on that. But I don't know, man. The Ravens are going to be kind of a question mark in some ways. Zay Flowers needs to be a little bit more consistent. I know I had him on my fantasy team last year, and he wasn't the most consistent guy. But I would expect Lamar bounces back. I would expect Derrick Henry still does Derrick Henry type things. And then looking at their defense, they still have Humphrey there. They still have Hamilton there. They still have shades of what they had just a couple years ago. Roquan Smith's still there. Like, they are kind of thin at tackle, nose tackle, which is scary. And quite frankly, a little short on the defensive end spots. But the biggest acquisition was Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson was a huge boost to the defense that they needed. And it will take a lot of pressure off of Awuzie and Humphrey, Hamilton, and that secondary. That they needed that for their secondary. Bro, they are winning that division. I still think Pittsburgh has a shot because they have just as good of a defense, possibly, but that a lot of that depends on what version of Rodgers we see. Because if Rodgers shows his age, which I'm not sure. He has a good core group of receivers with Pittman and DK. But what scares me about DK is he's not a great route runner. He never has been. So, but we're going to go through their schedule here in just a second. So, they get to play Indianapolis the first week of the season in Indy. Daniel Jones coming off a torn Achilles. I don't expect it's going to be a strong year for Indianapolis, just because guys do not usually bounce back very fast off of the ACL injuries. I mean, the Achilles injuries. So I'm going to say Baltimore wins their first game of the season. We go to New Orleans. New Orleans is going to... They've fully bought into what they have there. They They have a crazy running attack with ETN and Kamara there. That shall be an interesting game, but I would probably suspect that the Ravens still will start off 2-0. Then you got Dallas. I know a lot of people might hate on Dallas and might not be that high on them, but I think Dallas is going to be one of them scary offenses with George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, Javonte Williams was great for them last year. If they continue to do what they did last year offensively and they improve the defense mightily, like I would say Dallas wins that game. I'm gonna give it to Dallas. So 2-1. Then they play Tennessee. I say that they beat Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be another one of those teams that I think sits at the bottom of their division. As for the next game, you got the Atlanta Falcons. I don't know what to think about the Falcons. They have Tua, they have Penix Jr. And both those guys are already hurt right out the gate. It is in Atlanta, but I would bet on the Ravens winning that game. So you're looking at 4-1 to start out. Cleveland, so that's 5-1. Cincinnati, that's going to be a shootout. That's the downside for Cincinnati this year. Cincinnati, I'll say that those teams are going to split their games. Cincinnati will win at home, but Cincinnati in Baltimore is going to lose. So at that point, after the Dallas loss, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 straight. They'd be on a 4-game winning streak going into Buffalo, and that will be their first loss of the season. I say Buffalo wins that game. Then they play Jacksonville. I'm going to say they beat Jacksonville. So you're looking at, 6-2? Right? 6-2, right? 7-2, I think, actually. Because they wouldn't have had their bye week yet. So, 7-2. They play the Chargers. I'm going to say that's going to be a West Coast game. No, that's going to be on the East Coast. So LA has to travel. I'm going to give that to the Ravens. I'm going to give that one to the Ravens. I think that's going to be a tough one for Los Angeles to come over, play on a Monday nighter. So I'm going to give that to the Ravens. Then they play Carolina. Who knows which version of Carolina we're going to see this year. They have improved a little bit, but they are having issues already with their offensive line staying healthy here, and it's not even preseason yet. So I got to say, I'm probably going to give that one to the Ravens. Houston, again, another question mark. I don't know which version of Houston we're going to see. It looks like they are going to get Tank Dell back, which is going to definitely help that offense out a lot. I definitely would say I would be picking, again, Baltimore probably in that game. So they're, at this point in the season, they would be, holy shit, man. 12, they'd be 10-2, because they would have lost to Buffalo, and they would have lost to Dallas. So 10-2. Then they go into their bye week. They play Tampa, and then they go Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. I'm gonna give that one to Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay's a really good team. I think they're going to be one of those teams that flies under the radar again this year. So I will say I'm gonna give Tampa, a win over Baltimore. So Baltimore goes to 10-3. They play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh that late in the year. I'm going to give it to Pittsburgh. So 10-4. Beat Cleveland. So that's 11-4. Lose to Cincinnati. That's 10-5. Or, I mean, 11-5. They play Pittsburgh again in Baltimore as the last week of the season. I'm going to say they win that game and they finish off the season 12-5, guys. I think that would be right. 12-5. Yeah, that's 12-5. Yep. So, yeah, I'd say Baltimore finishes the season at 12-5. That's gonna be a very interesting division, to say the least. I will move on to now with. Before I finish though with Baltimore, actually. So 12-5 is what I had them at. I say that that's their ceiling. Them winning 12 games is their ceiling. I say their basement, like their bottom number, like worst possible scenario, they win 9 games. That's worse, and that's saying Lamar gets hurt and he misses significant time this season. So I would say that 9 games is the worst possible scenario, but I would expect the best case scenario they go to 12. So for me, maybe I settle with the 11 wins, but I'm going to stick with my 12. And now we go over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got Aaron Rodgers, Mason Rudolph, Will Howard, and Drew Allar. Allar was their 3rd-round pick out of Penn State. I would expect that he will be on the roster. And but the interesting part will be is where does Rudolph fit into this whole scenario? And then you got Will Howard, who was their 6th-round pick from last season. Does Rudolph take a seat, get cut in favor of the 2 younger guys? Because Rudolph at this point is, you got to think, Tomlin's no longer there. You have a McCarthy-led team. It'll be interesting, to say the least, how they view Rudolph going into training camp. I think that it's Rudolph's job to lose when it comes to the second tier quarterback there. But Rodgers is going to be locked into his spot. The Steelers having Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle. Dowdle had an amazing year with the Panthers last year, rightfully going into another good situation when it comes to running the ball. They got a good offensive line overall. They have Freiermuth. They got Robert Tonyan over there too. Nice. But then on top of that, like I said before, you have Michael Pittman Jr. and DK Metcalf. But outside of that, their wide receivers are a little on the younger side. A little bit of question marks. So, but if Pittman Jr. and DK stay healthy, this team could very well travel very far off, and with the help of a good balanced rushing attack with Warren and Dowdle, that will be good as well. And of course, the defense is still going to be pretty solid. Jalen Ramsey's still there. Brandon Eccles, the former Jet. Darnell Savage came over to help out in the secondary. They're going to still be a very solid squad with Sante Samuel Jr. there in the secondary, Joey Porter Jr., Jamal Dean. We already know their defense is going to be elite, guys. We 100% know they're going to be one of the top 10 best defenses in football. They Steelers are almost always there. So, but the difference will they be truly elite though? Because you don't have the hard-nosed Tomlin there to you have a different style of coach in Mike McCarthy. So time will tell. Just reviewing that entire depth chart at the moment. Now we can move over to their schedule. They start out the gate with Atlanta. They say they're going to win that game. They'll start off 1-0. New England, I say they're going to take the loss there, so they're going to be 1-1. They're going to play Cincinnati. I say they take the first game against Cincinnati. Cleveland, say they're going to beat Cleveland. I think Indy, like I said, is going to be one of those teams that's going to struggle this year. I say they take Indy. So, right out the gate, they're 4-1. Tampa Bay, I think that's going to be a really good game. Just like the Tampa Bay versus Ravens game. I am still going to side with Tampa Bay winning that game. Just like them beating Baltimore. New Orleans, I think they're going to beat New Orleans. So you're at a 5-2 record going into week 8, where you play Cleveland. Say they beat Cleveland again, go into their bye week. So that would be 6-2 going into the bye week. Then they play Cincinnati again. I think the difference with Cincinnati, going against Pittsburgh, is Cincinnati, I think, might actually lose both of those games against the Steelers because I think they have a better defense. I think they have the best defense in that division. Safe to say they have the best defense in that division. So you got Cincinnati, I think, losing both games against Pittsburgh this year. So that makes them 8-2, right? I'm so bad at this right now. Was really sharp on my shit last night, but I'm really freaking tired tonight, actually, guys. Two. So that's 7-2. My bad. All right, Philadelphia at Philly. Ooh. I'm gonna say they beat Philly, go to 8-2. Denver they lose to, 8-3. Houston they beat, 9-3. Jacksonville 10-3. Baltimore said they were gonna split their games, so that's 10-3 or 11-3. Beat Carolina, that's 12-3. Beat Tennessee, that's 13-3. And then they lose to Baltimore to end the season. So that's 13-4. I'd say 13-4 is their like top, and I mean absolutely top. But I could realistically seeing it go really completely sideways, where they win at most 8 games. So I think maybe I'll dial it back a little bit and say they win 11 games, because I feel like there's still games that I'm saying they will win where it could potentially go the other way. So I'm going to say they win 11 games this year. Now we go to the We're going to go to the Cleveland shit stains. All right. Their depth chart going to be interesting to watch this team. So you got Deshaun Watson, that's supposed to be your number one quarterback right now. Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and Taylon Green. I would expect Green is going to be off that roster, and I would expect that Gabriel more likely will be off that roster as well. With Gabriel being the guy that probably goes to the practice squad, but Taylon Green, he was a 6th-round pick out of Arkansas. So maybe they carry 3 quarterbacks because of Watson's injury risk. But the real names to watch here in this case are Jerry Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins. I think both those guys should be standouts on this really questionably bad team. On the defense, since they did kind of get worse by letting Myles Garrett walk in that trade to get Jared Verse. Quincy Williams did come over, and I will give him credit. Quincy Williams, great player from the Jets. I'm gonna miss seeing him. Very aggressive linebacker, very smart linebacker to be even more specific. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, like that secondary is still going to be really good. Expect that the secondary will still be good for the Browns, but I think what limits them is that I still think they're a young team and they're still not sure what they are at this moment in time. And plus, we really haven't realistically seen Deshaun Watson in a while, if he does end up winning the starting job. But Jacksonville, to start out the season, I will give it to Jacksonville. I think they win that game. They lose to Tampa Bay. So they're 0-2 to start out the gate. They lose to Carolina. They lose to Pittsburgh. So that's 0-4. They lose to us. So that's 0-5. Baltimore they lose to 0-6. I think they beat Tennessee. I feel like that's going to be a very close one, though. I'll give Cleveland one win there. So 1-6. Pittsburgh they lose to. New Orleans they lose to. Houston they lose to. So 1-10 going into the bye week, or 1-9 going into the bye week. Then they play Vegas. I think Vegas is better than them, quite frankly, but I think that's a game that they could actually win. So 2-9. Lose to Cincinnati, that's 2-10. Lose to Atlanta, that's 2-11. Lose to the Giants, that's 2-12. Baltimore, 2-13. Indy, I think that could be a winnable game for them, but I think they're going to lose that 2-14, 2-15. So I'm going to say the Browns win 2 games. At most, they win 4 games this season. So they are going to be in position for a top 5 pick again, which realistically they need that. This team isn't going to go anywhere this year, so they will finish in last in that division. And now, last but not least, we move on to the Bengals. Of course, you have Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Only downside to Burrow is injuries. Then you got Flacco. And Flacco has been one of those guys that's been able to step in and be a reliable backup quarterback. You guys still have the journeyman Josh Johnson, and you have Sean Clifford as your fourth string quarterback. You got Chase Brown, solid running back for them. You got P. Ryan still there right behind him. And of course, you're looking at one of the deepest receiving cores, Ilias Sivas. He was really good for them. Higgins good for them. Chase potentially a top 3 wide receiver in football. Mike Gesicki is still there. Orlando Brown Jr. is over there. They have done some things to improve their offensive line a little bit, so good for them. But I will say now we're looking at their defense. They got Dexter Lawrence, which was kind of the we let Hendrickson go because we were cheap fuckers. So we had to get somebody to soften the blow. I still think they're going to be one of the worst teams when it comes to defense. I'd say they're going to be a bottom 10 defense for sure. And now we're going to move to their schedule really quick, guys. So we got Tampa Bay. I think they're going to lose to Tampa Bay. The teams that they're gonna beat are the teams that are basically on the same level of defense. I think they lose to Tampa Bay. I think they could beat Houston. So 1-1. I think they beat Pittsburgh. Or no, I said they lose to Pittsburgh. My bad. I think they could beat Jacksonville. They're gonna stomp Miami. That's dude. That's not even gonna be a game to watch. Oh my god. Poor Miami has to play them on the schedule. R.I.P. to the Miami Dolphins after that game. That's gonna look like a game of Madden. Ruh-roh, Reggie. Do you speak Portuguese in Brazil? Yes, you do speak Portuguese in Brazil. I don't, but all right. So we're looking at 1-1 there, 1-2, 2-2, 3-2 going into their bye week. I think they lose to Baltimore at Baltimore. I think Tennessee they beat, so that's 4, 5-2, right? Yeah, 5-2. Wait a second. They lose to Baltimore at Baltimore. I already said that. They're going to lose to Pittsburgh. So that's 2 losses. There's 3 losses. My bad. So 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at this point. 5-3. I think they lose to Pittsburgh again, like I said. So that's 5-4. Depending on which version of Washington we see. I'm going to say at Washington. I'm going to say they lose to Washington, so 5-5. They beat New Orleans, so 6-5. Cleveland, 7-5. Kansas City, 7-6. Carolina, I'm going to say 8-6. Indy, 9-6. Baltimore at home. Say they could beat Baltimore, but the problem is it's going to be tough. Say 9-6, 10-6 there, and then Cleveland. So 11-6 to end the season. I'd say that could go either way. I feel like they could bottom out and win 8 or 9 games. So I'm gonna say 9 wins from from Cleveland. I mean, from Cincinnati this year. So that will place them in third place behind Pittsburgh and Baltimore, which either of those teams I think can win the division. But now we're at a point in the stream where we are going to field questions. If anybody's got questions they want to ask football related, do not hesitate to join in and speak. And if not, I gotta be up in the morning, so I might end up cutting this short. So, to me, the AFC North is interesting. Quite frankly, I think it really is an interesting division. You got 3 teams that could relatively win their divisions. You really do. You have three teams that could win the division, but Cincinnati needs a lot more help because their defense is just spotty at best. But yeah, that's my thoughts. And just so we're aware, tomorrow we're doing the AFC South. So that's the Tennessee Titans. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's the Indianapolis Colts, and that's the Houston Texans. Shall be interesting to go through that division. That division, I feel like, is only a 2-team race. I think that's either Jacksonville or Houston. I don't think Indy's going to win that division, and I don't think Tennessee is going to win that division either. Both of those teams are going to be, in my opinion, struggling. And kind of, for me, as a Jets fan, since we have Indy's pick for next season, kind of hope that they do suck, because then we get a higher pick. It's interesting to look at what Cincinnati did in the offseason when it came to their draft picks. They only drafted 3 guys on the defense. And Cassius Howell, Cario Davis. And those 2 were their first 2 picks, which were the second and third round picks. But then they don't draft they draft 2 centers. They drafted a wide receiver in the 4th. They draft a tight end in the 7th. And then they draft Landon Robinson, a defensive tackle from Navy, in the 7th round as well. So to me, I don't think they understand that they need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball. Safe to say they got to figure shit out if you're Cincinnati. Just interesting what their draft strategy from there, and then we'll take a look back at what did Cleveland do in the. Go all the way back to Cleveland. We'll review theirs. So they went offensive tackle, wide receiver, and they had 2 first-round picks. So offensive tackle, they were smart. They needed to protect their quarterback. Wide receiver, I think that was smart. You want other people other than Jerry Jeudy. And then they went safety, offensive tackle again. And then they got center, linebacker, tight end, quarterback, and then tight end again. Which, with Njoku being gone, kind of needed that. I definitely would have liked to see them do a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. But offensively, they should definitely be better with those additions. spending a high pick on high picks on wide receivers, high picks on a high pick on offensive tackle, and a high pick on a safety as well. That's gonna be huge, but only if those guys end up panning out. Like with what they did with their picks, I'd say they did pretty good. And now we'll go back over to Pittsburgh and see review their what they did in the offseason when it came to the draft picks. They invested their their first pick into an OT, huge. Then they did Jeremy Bernard from Alabama, wide receiver in the second. Alar, quarterback from Penn State. So Alar, you definitely can admit, is going to be on this roster, spending that kind of a pick on him. Dalen Everett, quarterback from Georgia. You got another offensive tackle there with the third round pick there. And then you have Caden Wetjen, wide receiver out of Iowa. Then you got Riley Nikowski, tight end out of Indiana. Gabriel Rubio, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Safety Robert Spears Jennings, safety out of Oklahoma. And then Eli Heidenreich, running back out of Navy. So mostly I feel like they solidified the offensive line just to try to like protect their 42-year-old quarterback at this point. They tried their best to kind of get themselves a quarterback for in the future, possibly with Alar, and they brought in some wide receiver talent, tight end talent as well, so to help behind Freiermuth. So, quite frankly, I think they did a really good job there. And then last but not least, let's go to Baltimore and see what they did realistically as a team when it comes to their draft picks, last but not least. They went offensive guard, edge, wide receiver, tight end, corner, tight end, running back, punter, defensive tackle, offensive guard. So they went really heavy on trying to bring in guys that can protect Lamar. They brought in some help up for the defense with their high picks. Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of USC, and Elijah Surratt, wide receiver out of Indiana. So they brought in some other like young talent at wide receiver. I think realistically what they did with their picks, the Ravens did a really good job. They brought in talent that they needed. They knew they needed more talent at wide receiver to help out Lamar. And they also knew they needed to add some more depth on that defense. And they acquired 2 tight ends in that draft too, to try to soften the blow of letting Isaiah Likely go. But right now that looks like a pretty solid team, what they were able to accomplish with their draft picks. Kudos to all the teams that were involved in or all the front offices. They all did it seems on paper at least, they did a pretty good job balancing what they needed. So we got 6 minutes left before I'm probably going to end the stream. If we don't have any questions or any predictions pop up in the chats, guys, I just got to be up early. And so if we're going to keep it short, then so be it. It is what it is, but I would love to hear your opinions, hear what you guys think. I think Ravens or Steelers are going to win that division. And I think Bengals are going to finish third. And I think the Browns are going to finish last in that division. That's crazy. Lamar is making $52 million this year. That is crazy. The thing that blows my mind about guys like Lamar and all the guys that are making tons of money, I'm like, haven't y'all learned something from oh, I don't know, from Tom Brady, where it's like, dude, why are you willing to continue to take most of your money, most of your team's money? Like, why can't you sign like say 42 million instead of 52 million? That 10 million would go a long ways towards helping your team, helping you build a better team around you. Oh, and I noticed the Ravens also were carrying four quarterbacks with Joe Fagano as their lone rookie, while they also brought in Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley's back. Skylar Thompson, if everybody remembers, was also part of the Miami Dolphins the last couple of years and has been the backup behind Tua. But now both him and Thompson gone from Miami, which both players probably are better off at this point. The Ravens are also bringing in, holy shit, boss. We got six running backs, three of which are rookies. Dang. Wide receiver wise, they got a ton of young talent coming in. You still got Gullery, I think his name is. His second year from Arizona State. Cornelius Johnson, second year coming out of Michigan. And then you have the three rookies there: Octavian Smith Jr. out of Maryland, Elijah Surratt out of Indiana, and you have Jacoby Lane out of USC. With 10-year vet Chris Moore there at 33 years old from came out of Cincinnati. But they have a lot of freaking wide receivers, which can't say I blame them. You're gonna try to find the best group out of all those guys. But anyways, guys, we're getting towards the end of our stream. Not seeing any chat questions, unfortunately. I'm sad to see that. Hopefully, we'll see more tomorrow night for the AFC South. I look forward to that one. That will be an interesting discussion for everybody. Who knows? Maybe we pull a late nighter, and maybe we bring in another another division into our streams for tomorrow night, and we'll move things around for Saturday, and maybe we do fantasy football stuff Saturday and Sunday. We'll see. But as of right now, that's TBD. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful night. We're at 11:58. We're going to make it to the hour mark, and then we're going to say goodnight. Hope you all have a wonderful night. God bless. I love you all. I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate all your effort popping in here and saying hello. We weren't able to reach our gift goal of the 25 You're Awesome Cats, but it's okay. It's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Again, I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate the fact that you guys tuned in. Took time out of your busy day for me. So, much love. Appreciate you all. And we're almost to midnight. So, I'm going to say it one more time. Good night. God bless. Sleep well. Stay safe. And I will see you all 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time again, Friday night for AFC South. Peace out, everybody. Shit. Let's see. There we go. Peace out, Twitch. Have a good night, everybody on Twitch.